Okay, guys. This webinar is being recorded. By participating in this webinar, you agree that Angelique Robbins owns all right to this recording, and you grant her permission to use your image and any written or spoken comments you choose to offer during the course of this webinar in any manner that she chooses. Okay, you guys ready? Have you all been to one of these before? We're not sure if Kelly has. So I'll just explain real quick. When I was 19 years old, I had a near-death experience, and I met the angelic realm during that experience. Over the course of the next 13 years, I studied with the angelic realm. I studied with a person who channeled the angel Michael, and I learned how to feel energy very intricately. I learned how to hear the message coming from people's hearts. I learned how to hear the information coming from people's egoic fields and understand all of the splits that were occurring within the individual. This led me to become a special type of therapist and help people understand what they really wanted to accomplish in life and why they weren't able to. After this practice started, I had an experience where Geschichte, who I had met in my near-death experience, the angelic realm, that's what they called themselves, Geschichte, spoke through me to a group of people. And after that incident of them speaking through my body, we started doing classwork and one-on-one sessions. And we called them the messages from your heart. We're rebranding, so we're not really using that terminology anymore. But that's how these webinars came about. That's how these gatherings came about, because people everywhere have questions that they want answered. And ultimately, those questions are about themselves. And Geschichte can offer infinite wisdom regarding the energy that we're all housing and that we're all interacting with, to help us understand how to live fuller, more meaningful, happier lives. So this song that I'm about to sing is the song that Geschichte taught me when I was in my 20s. I'm 40 now. And it calls them forth, basically. So when I'm done singing, Geschichte will be speaking through me. So that's how this works, all right? So just close your eyes and enjoy the song. Om Sei Savanata. Om Sei Savanata. Ooh, ooh, hey, safe minkum, seiken, safe minkum, seiken. Ooh, safe now. Ooh, for say, safe minkum, seiken. For note, for note, come for Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. It's good to see all of you. Thanks for attending our webinar, The Art of Magnetism. The Art of Magnetism. So we want to preface what we're going to speak about with this understanding. The reason magnetism is an important topic is because you all are energetic beings first and foremost. We want to go on off a little bit of a tangent right here at this spot. What we notice is that most humans really don't believe, obviously, that they are energetic beings. Because if most of humanity truly believed that it was energetic beings, there would be a lot more time, money, effort, and energy spent on energy and understanding it, cultivating it, understanding how to use it, understanding how energy interacts in life. But still at this point in time, humans are more focused on the matter than the energy. And as long as humans are the most focused on matter instead of energy, you will continue to see the types of problems that you see in the world today. Because without understanding that you all are energetic beings and that you must understand all of the different energetic frequencies that are occurring in order to navigate life properly, you won't be able to navigate life properly because people will still continue to make decisions based on matter. But matter is the final step in an energetic dance. So when you're dealing with matter, you are literally dealing with the last stop, okay? And because of this understanding, because of this fact, it is very difficult to change matter. But it is not difficult to change energy, if you understand what goes into that. So now, realizing and accepting, in order to really get this webinar that we're going to give, you have to truly just abandon everything you think you know and accept that I am an energetic being. We want you to say this to yourself. I am an energetic being. There is infinite energy, more energy than I can fathom. I am a part of that energy. In order for me to truly understand who I am, in order for me to truly understand what my life is, I must accept that I am energy and I only know a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of the energy that I am. Because most of my life experience is based upon what I am perceiving in regard to matter. So you have to be able to shift your focus. You have to be willing to shift your focus to an energetic standpoint to really understand this topic. All right. Now, we do know that those of you who are on this call, that is totally fine with you. You are very interested in energy. If you weren't interested in energy, you wouldn't be on this call or this webinar, however you want to say it. Because it is, the art of magnetism is all about energy. And someone who is drawn to that title understands that they're about to explore energy. Okay? So in the realm of magnetism, what we want you to understand is that there are different frequencies being emitted from you all the time. Okay? Now, these frequencies are, it's information. It's all kinds of information, so complex. And the majority of this information that you are emitting has to do with what was recorded so far in your life. Meaning that the majority of what you are emitting at this point is coming from your egoic field. Now, this is really important to understand because the egoic field is a program that is a very intricate, beautiful, amazing program connected to your physical body. This egoic program is recording everything that's taking place in your life, okay? So every single emotion, every single thought, every single experience and how you perceive it, every single experience and how other aspects of you perceive it. That's an important piece. All of that is stored in your egoic field, okay? Now, we want you to kind of focus for a second on your own ability of awareness. So you're going to feel your own awareness. It kind of feels like a laser, yeah? You can take this specific awareness and you can kind of move it around, right? So let's, for the sake of this conversation, let's think of your awareness like a flashlight. Your awareness can shine on different things. And when it shines on those different things, it expands it for you to be able to see it, for you to be able to perceive it, okay? But you're only able to see whatever you're shining that light onto, meaning that even just within your egoic field, which is a very teeny tiny part of who you are, at best 1/1000th of who you actually are. Most of the frequencies you're emitting are coming out of this field. Yet, all you're aware of is whatever you shine your light on. Okay, so now consider that what you're shining your light on is also maybe 1,000th of the energy that's in your egoic field. That means that the rest of that energy that's emitting frequencies, you are unaware of. So this is why people get really confused on the quote law of attraction, because they're not understanding that at any given time they're emitting all kinds of different frequencies based on everything that we just told you. Okay? So if there is trauma, for example, that hasn't been dealt with from your childhood, and it's still sitting in your egoic field energetically, then it is emitting frequencies. And as it's emitting those frequencies, it is like a siren that's calling toward it that which will help it come into wholeness or come into healing or come into integration. Okay? That means that a lot of what you are going to be magnetized toward is very simply only to help you heal something. Now, this is a really deep concept, guys. Okay? That means that anytime you feel attracted to something, your life is calling you to heal something, to integrate something. Because what happens in the egoic field with mankind at this time is that it splits many times. So in your society, you have different terminology for this sort of thing, such as, quote, multiple personality, that sort of thing. And what we want you to understand is that you all have that going on to some degree. There are multiple splits within each person's egoic field, okay? Now, what those splits basically are is some type of trauma that created your consciousness to go, okay, there needs to be something that happens so that part of this is able to protect me if this type of scenario occurs again. All right? So in order to protect you, your egoic field will break off into as many other yous as it needs to. And so this is why it feels like it's such a long road to becoming, quote, authentic or whole. It's because from the time you guys are teeny tiny, you are not taught how to be integrated. Okay? So we have to kind of work backwards with you. So the first thing that we want you to understand is that you have more energy than you can fathom that is emitting frequencies that you are unaware of. Now we know that sounds scary, but we're going to give you some tips on how to get into that, okay? The major component of the frequencies that you're emitting are emotions, okay? So emotions are also recorded in this field. And if you consider that the majority of your life is made up of a series of emotions, that the entire journey of your life is an emotional journey, and you just stop and think for a second, wow, so from the time I was born, before that really, let's go from the time you were in the womb, you were recording your emotional journey, okay? So even though you don't have cognitive memory of your emotional journey necessarily, at least not in full, there is a component of you that does, that remembers every single thing you've ever experienced emotionally. So that component of you that's recording all of that is very interested in keeping you safe. So that's the component of you that's going to create all of these different aspects of you when it perceives there's a threat. Now, the reason this is so important for your survival as a human being is that the spiritual part of you, the non-physical part of you, that which is connected to everything that is in full understanding and full knowledge, is not afraid of death because energy doesn't die. Okay? So a program had to be created that was afraid of death in order to stay alive in this world. Otherwise, none of you would be concerned with it whatsoever, and your lives would probably be a lot shorter, especially through those toddler years where you almost kill yourself every moment. So this emotional journey is like a sea of doors, a sea of doorways. Because every single time you had an emotional event that you didn't know how to deal with, and you went into some sort of split because of it, all of those are still existing if you haven't gone in and dealt with them and integrated those pieces again, okay? which means that every single emotion that you have, no matter what it's about, is a doorway back in to this recorded emotional cloud that will then help you understand what you are emitting, which will then help you understand why you are experiencing certain things that you are experiencing in life. Okay? You guys understand what we're saying so far? Okay. Good. So when it comes to getting back into these emotional states in order to bring about integration, the first thing that you have to assess is that the only thing that's going to allow you to really start to integrate these different pieces of yourselves in order to have a more cohesive and intentional frequency output is to be very, very, very honest and present about whatever it is you're feeling. And then allow that presence with that emotion to take you deeper into your sea of emotion. Now, as you go deeper into the sea of emotion, it will get more and more uncomfortable. And as you get deeper into the sea of emotion, it will become more and more seemingly black, dense, and feel more like you're lost. Because it starts to feel overwhelming when you get into the sea of emotion that has not been dealt with. When you get into the sea of all of these aspects of you that you've locked in a closet, essentially. So we feel that if you know that going in, you will be less afraid to face it. All right? So if you know that it's going to feel overwhelming, it's going to be so uncomfortable, you're going to feel like you're crawling out of your skin, and that's good. That means you're on the right track. Your job is to stay present as you're on that track. Your job is to be able to feel these emotions entirely, allowing them to completely take over your body while you stay present with them. Okay? So this is different than having, say, an anxiety attack. An anxiety attack is overwhelming, but it is a person who is completely disconnected from their sense of presence when that's happening, okay? So this is a very important thing to understand. There is a completely different feeling when you are present with overwhelming emotion and when you are in avoidance of overwhelming emotion. And that's really as much as we can talk about it until you experience it yourself. But the ability to be present while in the midst of uncomfortable emotion is a discipline that you have to start training yourself to have. And if you consider that this discipline will lead you into your greatest life, this discipline will lead you into your greatest exploration of energy. This discipline will lead you into you being able to have and experience and work with the most energy. Perhaps it will be motivating, okay? Because any of that space that we're talking about that's in that egoic field that is not dealt with is energy that you do not have access to. And it's energy that is creating on default. It's energy that is emitting frequencies on default, which is the last thing that you want. So when you get into the art of magnetism and you realize, okay, I am very interested in cleaning up my entire field and integrating every single aspect of me. That is what I'm interested in doing. Then that means that anything that you feel magnetized toward, anything that has that sense of magnetism to it, you're going to pay very close attention to. And you're going to really analyze what's happening as you feel that sort of attraction. What emotions come up for you? What buttons get pushed in you? Do you have extreme joy? Do you have extreme terror? Do you have extreme comfort? Do you have extreme discomfort? Do you feel excited? Do you feel scared? These are all things to explore, okay? So when it gets into things like soulmates, this is what we want you to understand. Essentially, a soulmate is frequencies that are a match to yours in some way. Now, does that mean that the match is something that you're going to enjoy? Not necessarily. So that's why people say, oh, this person was my soulmate. I thought this person was my soulmate. And then 10 years later, oh God, this person destroyed my life. And it's because that person was answering the frequencies that you were unaware of. Okay? So this is how much you really want to get in touch with who you are. And we don't think there's anything more important than getting in touch with who you are, because if you don't get in touch with who you are, there is literally no way for you to navigate your own life. And it's interesting because here we're on this webinar with you guys, and a lot of people said they were going to show up for this, and people talk about how they really want to find the person of their dreams, they really want to create the job of their dreams, all of this stuff, but won't even come onto a free webinar to learn how to start that process. It's telling, isn't it? It's telling of your world. But the reason is because most people are too lazy to really get into this stuff and work with it. And it takes serious dedication on a daily basis, discipline on a daily basis, to really pay attention to what your dysfunctions are and what is magnetizing what, okay? So at the same time, there can be components of you that are a match to someone else's dysfunctions, okay? So perhaps there are components of you that aren't dysfunctional, that easily match somebody else's dysfunction in order to help them have healing. You still want to be aware of that. You want to always be aware of whatever dynamics are occurring, because the dynamics that are occurring is what's going to teach you about what frequencies you're emitting and what you're meant to do with them. But if you aren't honest about the dynamics that are occurring, then you're not going to be able to be taught, okay? So the very first step of cleaning up your frequencies is honesty. Isn't it interesting? Some of you have been on the webinars for the past 3 weeks, and isn't it interesting that in each one of these webinars, honesty is one of the foundational pieces of what we're teaching you? That's how important it is. Because the plague of your planet right now is dishonesty. It's the inability to be honest about what's actually occurring. The inability to be honest about the emotions that you're actually having. The inability to be honest about the thoughts you're actually having. These are all frequencies. These are all energy calling something to it. So if you're not in a state of awareness or in a state of openness or a state of honesty to assess and to analyze all of these different components of you, then you are subject to whatever they draw to themselves through default. And imagine the momentum that that picks up. It picks up so much momentum, guys. When we start teaching you, we have to literally take you backwards through your history and unravel all kinds of stuff to then help you integrate before we can even start really teaching you the things that you guys want to learn, like energy healing or telepathy. Now, in our Healing Integration Therapy Part 2, we start teaching you telepathy. But do you know how long it takes for you guys to get to that point? And we take you through grueling training. But it takes you at least 2 years of weekly training before you can even get to a place where you're clear enough in your field to even be able to hear clearly what somebody else's energy is saying. Why is that? Because for all of those frequencies that are occurring that we were just talking to you guys about, they also create a filtering system. This filtering system is part of what keeps you, quote, safe. Meaning that every bit of information that comes your way is also going through this filtering system that this field has created in order to protect you. Do you know what that means? That means that, number one, you're not going to get that much information because so much of it won't fit the filter. And in order to keep you safe, that filter says, yeah, we can't let that in. That doesn't really make sense. And that contradicts this over here. So this one stays out. So if you can't get all of that information through your filtering system, then there's zero way for you to actually understand it. Okay? So this is another reason why it's so important to start rounding yourself up. Why it's so important to stay dedicated to your honest thoughts, your honest emotions, and being able to hold presence with them. Not to criticize them, but to accept them, to notice them, to just truly to notice their existence, to realize that they exist. This is the first and one of the most crucial steps. It actually begins the process of alchemy. It begins the process of integration. So when you feel strong magnetism towards something, it means it's time to analyze yourself in that regard. And this is why two people can feel very strongly magnetized toward each other. And then in a few years, maybe even less, often less, it feels like the whole thing has just turned to total shit. And that's because you weren't paying attention to what it was teaching you. You assumed that what it was teaching you was that you were going to end up in this fairy tale romance because you felt magnetized, and that everything was going to be happily ever after. And if any of you have had experiences like that, you can look back and you can ask yourself, all of the things that I know now, did I see it then? Did certain things even make it through my filter? Or did my filter have to completely crash in order for my eyes to see all of it? Or in order for me to be able to feel all of it? And many of you have had that experience probably where you've felt like you've had a harsh awakening. And this is actually what's occurred when you've had a harsh awakening. You've been existing in a cloud of emotional memory that has not been addressed, been present with, and been integrated. And you have attracted to you someone or something that is waking up all of those different components. And as each of that happens, it feels painful. But every time you ignore the pain, You add to that cloud until it becomes so immense and so loud that it has a sort of explosion or implosion. And when the implosion or the explosion occurs, it is the height of your awareness shining the flashlight into that very dense cloud. And that alchemy begins. But when that alchemy begins, when it's a field like that, like what we're talking about, it feels like death. It feels like you're dying. It feels absolutely horrible. And this is because you've got who knows how many splits of your consciousness or of your egoic field integrating at once. And when you experience integration, it feels like death. Because those aspects of you, those individual projections of you, cease to exist. Or better explained, they exist in a new way. So what happens when something is fully integrated is the expression, the frequency, the filtering system, all of that is now different. It's a much more whole emission, a much more well-rounded emission, a much more understanding emission, okay? The energy itself no longer is holding all of those frequencies of avoidance, okay? Now it's holding awareness in the first stages. So you can still be experiencing horror and terror and anger and rage and sadness, grief. You can still be experiencing all of that as it's integrating. And you will experience all of that as it's integrating. And you'll notice that as you stay present with it, as it's integrating, it becomes less and less and less. And then what you'll notice is that in your physical life, you will start having more experiences that seem to reflect the integration itself, that seem to reflect the wholeness itself. And this is the way life works. It happens on the inside first. It does not happen on the outside first. Period. It happens on an energetic level first. And you guys have access to all of that energy through your emotion. You have access to all of that energy through your honest exploration of how you feel and how you think. And then you start to gain power in the areas of that emotion by being willing to be present with it. And the more presence you hold with the emotion, the more you integrate. The more you integrate, the more the frequencies that you emit are whole frequencies, not split, not fragmented. Now, if a frequency is whole, do you think it has more power? It does. It has a ton more power. Because all of that energy that was existing in those fragments have now come into one place. They've all come into agreement. This is what we're pouring energy into. We're all going to pour energy into this. We've become one. So now when you want to accomplish something, you've got all of that energy that was being used on default going towards something that you genuinely want. And you've created it through your ability to be honest and present with your own discomfort. So someone who is dedicated to this every day of their lives will start to have a life that looks more like angels, where what you're wanting to accomplish takes a lot less effort because you have all of the energy of you really moving in the same direction instead of split all over the place. That's the power of integration. That's the truth of magnetism. We know that it's much less romantic, but it's true. It really is both that simple and that complex. And until you are willing to get to know yourself deeply, and we mean, you guys, you really have to be willing to get to know your own darkness. All right? You have to be willing to get to know all of these parts of you that are unsavory. All right? If you really want to understand magnetism and how to have more influence in the magnetism of your life, you've got to become the mature parent or the mature friend. That's probably a better way to put it. The mature friend to all of these split components of you in order for them to start integrating. Then you won't have rogue frequencies emitting information that the awareness part of you disagrees with. Okay? So on that note, we want to take some questions. Does anyone have a question? Joni?
I just want to say that's an amazing explanation of all of that. And my trying to wrap my brain around it, but it was just the most amazing description of it all. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to listen to it again and again.
Somewhat difficult to explain, so that makes me feel very good that,
that
it was done well in your opinion.
Yes, thank you.
Do you have any questions? Can we dive into any of it deeper for you?
No, I just love the description of it. Rogue frequencies. It's like, yeah, bing, bing, bing. I'm so identifying with everything you're saying. It's like, how do we start? Let's start. What would be the first thing I could do on a daily basis just to start, I guess, recognizing those rogue frequencies and being present and acknowledging them?
Well, we really feel that we're going to meet you while we talk. We really feel that the best way to get in touch with the rogue frequencies is through your emotional states. So the first step is to just become very dedicated to having heightened awareness about the emotions that you're feeling. Okay? So most of you have gotten really used to numbing yourself out, to paying less attention to the emotions, because what you received through the majority of your life is, you're too sensitive. You shouldn't feel so much. Toughen up, that sort of thing. And so you've got a habit going on of numbness, of avoidance. So truly the first step into the rogue frequencies is presence, learning how to pay serious attention to whatever emotions you're having, and then practicing staying present while you're feeling them and doing your best to not have judgment about them. That we can't even explain what this does for you energetically. If you will just start to practice this, you will start having epiphanies like you wouldn't believe. Because what's been occurring has been such the opposite of that, that as soon as these emotional states of yours, as soon as these aspects, frequencies, start getting some attention, healthy attention, meaning, oh, I feel you. I feel you. That's the light of your presence, the light of your awareness shines on it and goes, oh, I feel you. Not, why the hell are you there? Go away. I need to get rid of you. I need to get rid of these frequencies. Can't do that. That's not how it works. But that's the approach that people take, because that's the approach you take in this physical life, isn't it? Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to get rid of it. But when it comes to energy, you can't apply it like that. When it comes to energy, you have to really accept that there is no getting rid of. There is only transforming. That means everything you shine a light on, it's yours. It's yours forever. The question is, what are you going to do with it? And when you hold presence with an emotion, it's like giving a toddler a growth serum. That's essentially what happens. When you hold presence with uncomfortable emotions or stagnated emotional growth, however you want to say it, you are basically giving a growth serum to that emotion. You're giving it permission to exist, number one. Number two, you're saying, not only do I give you permission to exist, but I give you permission to grow. And all I have to do is be present with you. All I have to do is accept you into the light of me, into the light of my awareness, in order for your growth to begin. And I love you so much because you're a part of me that I'm going to sit here with you as long as I need to. You are never going to be alone again. And so that the aspect of you, that emotional component of you, bless you, goes, oh, I'm validated. Someone's paying attention to me. I do exist. I can exist. Just that in itself starts to mature the emotion itself. It starts to mature that aspect. And each one of you have experienced this probably in an argument, where if someone keeps saying, shh, or I don't want to hear that, or just stop saying that, or all of those different types of things. Or someone says, I hear you, and I'm so sorry that you feel that way. And I'm going to do everything that I can to help make that better for you. What happens in that moment? It's funny because energetically, so much has occurred, but in the physical world, almost nothing has occurred. Two people are standing there and they're having a conversation. But energetically, everything starts to change for you. The minute someone listens to you, the minute someone deeply listens to you, you start to heal. You can feel it. We know all of you have had this experience. The same thing happens to those aspects within you. So what you have to do is train yourself to approach your emotions, your negative emotions in this way. To not say, I don't want you. And when we say, it's not just lip service. We're meaning what you are going to emit toward that emotion that you find. Now we still mean you have to be honest with it. So you can still say, this really sucks to feel this. I'm so sorry that this has been your state for 35 years. I've just left you in the closet feeling this for 35 years. I'm sorry. I've made it your fault this whole time, but the reason you haven't changed is my fault. I've given you no light of my awareness. I've given you no presence. I'm sorry. I'm going to feel this with you. There's going to be two of us feeling this, not just one. And we're going to feel it together until it starts to change. Now, what occurs when that alchemy starts to happen? A lot of times you'll have imagery. So we'll use someone's experience as an example. One of our students had severe sexual abuse when she was little. And one of the emotions that she had to continually go into while she's been studying with us is rage. Anyone who has been sexually abused has extreme rage, so much rage. And it's usually exactly what that person is afraid of feeling, okay? So they will shove it down into the deep, dark depths of themselves to not have to feel that rage because they never knew what to do with it. Now, if you think about it logically, what is the rage there for? The rage was there. The rage was in that space to help them get free of such abuse, okay? So if you think of it logically, then you can see, oh, yeah, okay, so if I'm getting raped and rage comes up, I've got a lot better chance of getting free in that situation than being docile. Okay, so it's a very natural and normal emotion to have in that type of abuse. But someone who's a child who experiences rage, it still doesn't really do anything for them. They're still completely powerless. So in that point of powerlessness, they realize, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do with this emotion. And this emotion, in conjunction with everything else I'm experiencing, is just too much. So I'm going to shove it over there to the left. Yes. And so someone can have all these different splits of rage. All right. And so when that person goes back into those rage components, it's the most horrid feeling, because it will feel like an alien is in the body, because they've been disconnected from the rage for so long, they don't barely even know how to feel anger anymore. So when they start integrating and feeling the rage again, it's completely overwhelming. And they don't know what to do with it. And so what will happen is the energy itself will create visuals. And if you don't accept the visuals, then you end up shoving it back into the closet. So when you're dealing with extreme emotion, and we're using rage because it's easy to explain to you, someone who's going into rage and feeling rage is going to have visuals like murder. Okay? So it's going to become very easy to that person to see things like murdering the person who sexually abused them. And what we want you guys to understand is that when energy is speaking to you in this way, all the energy is doing is being honest with you about how it feels. And so you have to take what is appropriate and what is not appropriate off the table to do this inner work and go, okay, all of this is taking place within me. I'm not going to go physically kill anyone. I'm not going to hurt anyone. But I'm going to allow these components of me that have this emotion to express themselves within me. And I'm going to put no rules upon them. And this is how we taught this woman. We said, whatever comes forth, no matter how violent, allow it to take place within you. Because what is occurring is when rage and that powerlessness starts creating that type of imagery, what it's doing is allowing you to go through some type of process within you that allows you to start feeling some type of empowerment, okay? Now, when it comes to a little child who's been that abused, it is very easy to understand how killing the abuser makes them feel empowered. And then also safe, right? It's easy to see that. It's easy to understand that. And if a little child had come to you and said, this person raped me 85 times in 1 year, and all I want to do is kill him, you would say to that little child, I completely understand why you want to kill that person. You wouldn't say, you can't do that. You wouldn't be so worried about what was inappropriate about it. You'd be more interested in helping that little kid figure out how to accept everything that they're feeling and thinking in order to have healing. And this is the same approach that you want to have with yourselves. Okay? Now, this teaching has been misunderstood by some of the people who have listened to us. And they say, that's not a good idea to teach people to do that. Well, they're wrong. It is. We're not encouraging you guys to go out and kill anyone, obviously. But we are encouraging you to experience the transition from disempowered to empowerment within yourself, and to be okay with however that looks inside yourself, and to take off the appropriate hat in order to do so. Because humanity's need to be appropriate with all of their thinking is what creates so much dysfunction. Because you guys won't allow yourselves to just be honest about what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're wanting, because you're not supposed to be able to feel it. You're not supposed to feel something like that. It means if you feel that, then you're a bad person. But that's not the case. The truth is that you are experiencing it on the inside energetically for a purpose. What you're meant to do is learn how to allow yourself processes so that it doesn't happen in the physical world. Learn how to allow your rage to express itself within you so that you don't have to go kill people. Do you know how much less criminal behavior would exist if everyone took this to heart? You'd be amazed. Does that answer your question, Joni? So does someone else have a question? So we want you guys to just perhaps listen to this a few times in order to understand magnetism a little more honestly. And we want you guys to consider, if this is important to you, we want you to consider studying with us. Because we can take you through, we guide our students through this on a weekly basis. You guys are not trained how to do this. And it's very difficult to train you in these little 1-hour segments. When you study with us, you get one-on-one time, and we teach you how to walk through each of these things. We teach you how to integrate. When you are done studying with us, you will be able to integrate these aspects of yourself so much easier. Life is so much easier. Okay? We have a course coming up, the introductory course. It's a 6-week course where you get to have one-on-one time with us. Similar to this, but it's confidential. And we start training you in a way that helps you unravel all of this stuff inside of you, integrate, and start living your life from a much more cohesive place, where you are sending out much more predictable frequencies. And everything that we teach you sticks, and you carry it forth in life. And we actually teach you in a way that where you learn how to make new habits. Because it's the new habits, and we're talking about deep-seated habits, habits of being. It's the new habits that create a new life for you. Okay? So if you're interested in studying with us, give Angel a shout or give Keith a shout. Okay, we hope that you've enjoyed this. We hope it kind of cleared up magnetism for you a little bit. We appreciate you guys so much. We deeply love you.
Thank you.